eggs, evil, health, destruction, offering comes from the rampant E. coli. How many of you know about the and salmonella that have been discovered in 90% of the eggs? You're saying, oh, Brian's exaggerating here. No, Brian doesn't exaggerate. Brian happens to read science. Seemingly alternative doctors don't read science. Seemingly research scientists don't read their own scientists. And science, I know that to be a fact. When I go out and I lecture to them, I quiz them on their own science. They all are against what I say, but they don't read the science they're against. I can tell you that for sure. They tested over 1 million eggs around the globe. This is not an Americana phenomena. This is not only in the United States. You know, we're so mono-focused in America. You're going to hear a lot of the lectures here say America, America, America. I'm happen to be interested in global population. Yes, I'm an American, but I'm a human. I'm part of the human global population. And globally they looked at country after country. Half of these eggs were so-called organic varieties. In some of your countries around the world, they're called ecological. In Germany, they're called bioland. In France, they're called bio. You know, they have all these fancy words for organic. And when they tested 90% of the eggs, over 1 million eggs, 90% of them had either E. coli or salmonella or both on it. How many of you thought eggs were the real food before I told you that? Raise your hand. At least one of you, 2 of you, 3 of you. They're the real food. They're the real food if you want to have, as pointed out yesterday in my wife Anna Maria's program, more breast cancer. Now, that's one study we can point to, because when they exhumed the tissue from breast cancer, they found salmonella in almost every single specimentation that most likely came from you eating organic chicken. 1 consumed egg gives you 230 grams of cholesterol. You don't need 1 gram of cholesterol. How about 28 clinical studies were reviewed by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition? They said dietary fats from birds play a role in development of obesity. And you're being told, eat chicken, you'll get skinny. Matter of fact, why Chick-fil-A try to convince you to eat 1 or 2 pounds of chicken daily, 7 days a week, is so you could lose weight. Woo! And you say, well, that sounds better than steak. By fattening up the birds and injecting them with antibiotics and other pharmaceuticals, they bloat and you buy. You ever hear bloat and buy? That's what you're doing. They're bloating and you're buying. You're bloating and buying. Look at that. Plump, succulent, tasty, moist. Remember the word moist? It's moist, not dry. Well, Mama knew how to cook that well. Horrible stuff. Here's what happens. You know, little tiny girls are no longer little tiny girls. At 4 years old, 5 years old, they want to put makeup on. They start to grow bosoms now, commonly at 6, 7, 8 years old. I had a family in my office about 15, 20 years ago. The mom and grandmom were there crying. And, oh, my God, our little 3-year-old must have cancer. She's bleeding vaginally. And we went to the doctors, and they say she doesn't have cancer, and what could it be? And then I talked to the mother, and the mother said, oh, yes, she loves chicken nuggets. She loves chicken nuggets. Well, when you put hormones into a boy or a girl, basically what happens is they start to mature at an unnatural state, a rapid unnatural state. So why we now have menstruation that dropped from when I was young, from 15 or 16 years old, young ladies started to have menstruation at 15 or 16 to about 10 years old, is because of chickens' popularization. Isn't that interesting? Now, is this Brian's opinion? No. I have very strong opinions, but I also happen to read science, and the science tells us the number one reason for antibiotic resistance, the number one reason little girls have menstruation at 7 and 8 years old, the number one reason women have menopause now 10 years sooner than their moms, is because people are consuming more and more hormones that come from animals. And the animal of choice today for you yuppie, hippie, natural eaters happen to be chicken. And I don't eat hamburgers anymore. I eat turkey burgers. Because I'm so smart. I'm an enlightened, yuppie, white person who has money. Well, congratulations for being conned again. Highly educated cons are even better than the cons for the average person, because they really have to go through a whole veneer of arrogance to get to your heart and soul and pocketbook, and they've done it. Let's give them a hand. The industry's done a brilliant job bringing you down, bringing you down. Hormones, antibiotics, and other drugs. How about other drugs? Pumped into these manifest antibiotic resistance, premature puberty, and early menopause. So you want less menopause, you don't want your little girls to have menstruation and like boys at 8 years old, then you better stop feeding them stuff that's going to make that happen. So advanced glycation end products. Does anyone know what that means? RAGE, it's called. Plays a role in pathogenics of renal disorder. This is often related to the consumption of fowl. So I may have mentioned, and if not, I will mention to you now, that what we do know is that we anticipate by the middle to end of this century that 50% of the world global population in the affluent nations of the world will have kidney dysfunction. I once again will repeat to you what I've just said. That very soon, 50% of you listening out there, if you don't radically shift the way you live, think, act, eat, etc., will end up with kidney disorder. Now, kidney disorders, I hate all diseases, but the one I really probably hate right at the top of the list happens to be kidney disorder. Because when you have kidney disorder, you go into a hospital 3 days a week, you get very familiar with the hospital. This is if you have good insurance. If you don't have good insurance, this doesn't happen. You go into the hospital 3 days a week, you spend 3-4 hours at the hospital on a machine because you no longer have a kidney that functions. And we're telling you that what we have is overwhelming evidence that one of the major causes of that is not only all meat consumption, all animal fat consumption, all egg consumption, but also fowl consumption. Now, seemingly nobody wants to acknowledge this because poultry consumption goes up. And when I used to go to a health store years ago, all health stores were plant-based. But now they want to put under the umbrella of health organic animal food. So many places I go when I travel the globe to go to a health store and they have the salad bar, it's no longer a salad bar. It's a carcass of animal bar and an egg bar. And because those of you who are non-thinkers, which is a majority of the population of the world, basically because it's under the umbrella of a health store, you say it must be healthy. So there you go, chomp right down on the eggs. But of course, you're smart enough not to eat the yellow part of the egg. You eat the white part of the egg, right? Silly people. Silly people. So we talked a couple of times about acrylamides, but you'll hear us speak more about that tonight in our panel. Because I yesterday showed you, and you may want to, if you didn't tune in yesterday or you weren't here, you may want to look at that. It's already up on The Real Truth About Health. I talked about the 3 things we know for sure when you cook a food. Not maybe, not possibly. One's leukocytosis, one is heating fats, and the other are acrylamides. So beyond the fact that we're eating chicken, I never ate a raw chicken, even though I ate lots of meat in my life. I never heard of raw chicken. I've heard of raw fish, I've heard of raw steak, but I haven't heard of raw chicken. Have you? Okay, nobody eats raw chicken. So you always cook it, right? So besides the chicken having antibiotics, having chemicals, giving you the weird hormones that they have in it, etc., now you're going to cook it and you're going to give yourself more cancer with it. Isn't that great? This is like one-stop shopping. You can have kidney disorder, you can have obesity, you can have breast cancer, you can have brain cancer, diabetes, you don't even have to do anything else wrong. Just eat chicken. Acrylamide is a well-established carcinogen, presents itself when frying chicken and other meats. This acrylamides introduce oxidative stress, also degrades sperm, and affects conception. So I'm working all of the time with young married couples from around the world that are saying, I've tried for 5 years, I've tried for 10 years, can't have babies. Now, the only good part of that story is they keep trying, and that part's fun. But they don't have babies at the end of it. And we now estimate that 1/3 of the young married couples who are attempting to have babies can't, and we came up with a new whole subset of medicine called what? Fertility medicine. So now they're experimenting with hormones on humans because humans can't have babies because they've eaten hormones in animals. Now let me repeat what I just said to you. So the overwhelming number one reason why young people can no longer have babies, and it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, the number one reason, there's many reasons. I don't have the time to speak about it all. Cell phones in here and all of it, but everything. But the truth, number one reason is because we eat animals with hormones. Our hormones go wacky. When our hormones go wacky, sperm and eggs don't produce the way they should. Can't have babies. And what do? When that doesn't happen, we now give you hormones. Really smart idea. Let's give them a hand for that brilliance. Come on, what's wrong? You don't go along with this program? Well, I don't know what's wrong with you guys. I thought New Yorkers were smart. I really thought you guys were the smart people here in the United States, huh? Maybe not. Maybe I got to go to California. They'd probably do a standing ovation when I did that one. Meat science studies. Yes, they actually study meat. And every once in a while, we actually capture truth out of that, because usually they suppress this information. They don't want you to know what inside of the culture of the poultry industry does. So in their studies, they show that pan-fried duck, isn't that sounding like something you've heard at an Asian restaurant? Come in, have pan-fried duck. Now, at one point, I would have thought, gee, that sounds delicious. Pan-fried duck. They're actually telling you what it is, and you don't regurgitate. The breast of the duck create a type of cancer that's unique to duck. Only this is like duck cancer. So if you could be the only one on your block that gets this kind of cancer, wouldn't that be nice? You could say, hey, what do you have? Oh, I have breast cancer. Well, I have HAA. And the public wouldn't know it because you ate duck that you got that, which is a serious cancer-causing element. How many of you knew that? I didn't until I wrote this book. It's so funny. I always think I know a lot about a subject until I start to study it. Then I realize I should have studied it a lot longer, a lot before. Look at that little duckling there. Egg consumption. More eggs produce more breast cancer. Now look at that one. Headline. Where is it? The Journal of Breast Cancer. This isn't like the hippie journal of let's do alternative medicine and go against the medical profession. This is the Breast Cancer Journal, the number one journal worldwide on breast cancer. If you're a breast cancer guy, you basically read that journal every day, and they say,